each one of us has learned something new, something different during this particular period. And I'm sure that the teachers are going to benefit from today's session. And I invite all the teachers. We have different branches. We have a branch in sector 41 Chandigarh. Then we have a branch in Mohali and a branch at Patiala. All these schools are up to +2 level, and they are all co-educational schools with CBSE as our board. And the teachers, they had online sessions with the students, and the impact of the teacher is something which I always tell the teachers, that good teachers are always remembered, bad ones are never forgotten. And as a teacher, we all can impact the student in our own little ways. Because I very strongly believe that there's a very little difference in ordinary and extraordinary. And a little extra, whether it is in the form of any course the teacher takes up, any change in the behavior the teacher takes up, that little extra factor goes a long way from making ordinary things to extraordinary. And there is no age where we can say that the learning stops, because life never stops teaching. So we have to be good learners throughout our life, and we have to have a very positive attitude, because that attitude ultimately determines our altitude. So if we as a teacher have a perfect attitude, and we feel, and we should always have in mind that there is a little difference we can create in everybody's life, whomsoever we come across. So that's something which, even if the teacher or any person keeps improving, keeps growing every day, that's something which can really add up one's personality, as well as it impacts the students in a huge way. And also, I would like to appreciate Shikha for organizing this session. She had come up with this idea that they are already having webinars, and then if we could be part of it. So today that day has come when all her planning has gone in the right direction, and we are able to host, uh, like you are able to host the seminar, and we all would benefit in our own way and impact the students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a wonderful introduction, and it's our honor to be in front of all of you. A quick introduction to me. My name is Atul Khosla, and I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University in Khosla Hills, Himachal Pradesh. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, did my MBA post that, and then worked for around 20 years in different parts of the world, especially in consulting firms such as McKinsey and Company. Around 7 years ago, the teaching bug hit me, and I decided to move into teaching full time, and that's why I'm here in front of you today. We are delighted to have Vivek Atray with us, who's going to be our speaker for the day. And Vivek, if you allow me, I'm going to once in a while come in for my remarks. I hope that's okay. But as you all know, Vivek is absolutely superb speaker, an ex-IAS officer, a TEDx speaker, a motivational speaker, an author, but most importantly for me, a visiting faculty to Shoolini, an advisor, and also a personal friend. With that introduction, I'll hand it over to Vivek. And as I said, in areas of my expertise, I'll try to come in every now and then. So over to you, Vivek.
Thank you very much, Atul, and thank you very much, Gurkiran ma'am. Good to see you both, Anup Kiran ma'am and Gurkiran ma'am. The good thing is that Kiran obviously means ray of light, and we are happy to have this ray of light early morning. And in our lives at this time when we are undergoing a crisis, a global crisis, but human beings are very resilient. And you spoke very well and said that we have to keep learning and moving on in life. Atul Khosla is going to join me in sharing his thoughts on leadership. I believe the topic of the day is a beautiful topic, leadership and its nuances. I must start with a light-hearted anecdote, which was I went somewhere in Punjab to speak on this topic, leadership and its nuances. I won't say where. It could have been Haryana, it could have been UP, it could have been Delhi, but it was Punjab. And somebody was introducing me and said, so Mr. Vivek Atray will now speak on leadership and its nuances. So nuances are something slightly different from nuances. And of course, leadership can have its nuances also. But that is how language can play with words. So let's talk about leadership, and let's talk about the crisis first, because no harm in just mentioning it for a minute. I was lucky enough to be speaking to about many hundred healthcare professionals in a webinar last week in 15 countries through the government of India. And in this webinar, there were various experts speaking to healthcare professionals of India as well as 14 partner countries in that program, mainly in South Asia and East Africa and other parts of Asia also. So in that 15-minute speech that I had to make on motivation and morale, I kind of thanked not only the healthcare professionals, but the staff, the common person who is helping them, maybe a peon, a sweeper, whoever is there. And I thank these frontline warriors for what they are doing in this crisis. So you see, many of us, all of us are in different situations. And Atul Khosla will also share with you a little while later that how he feels that teachers are also at the forefront of this crisis in a way, and how they are doing their bit by going out and reaching out to students online and carrying on with their work despite the constraints. So each of us is in a different formation, if you like to call it, in this battle. There is a huge brigade of human soldiers. Some of them are at the very forefront, some of them are at the backup, some of them are doing their bit by motivating others. Teachers are doing their bit by motivating and giving knowledge to students. And parents should be doing their bit by encouraging their children as best as they can. So everyone has a role to play. And we have a role to play in thanking and paying our gratitude to those people, especially also those from the defense personnel. We know that 5 army officials lost their lives day before yesterday at the border in Kashmir, and 1 colonel and 1 major and 3 men or lance knights. They were brave soldiers, and they are carrying on with their job despite the virus with no change. I also read that the major, a 30-year-old Major Sood, his wife had not met him since November. So when we look at life and its problems, we should also look at this bigger picture and perspective. And the perspective is that all of us who are in this webinar are lucky people. Let us put it that way, and let us be very, very clear that we are fortunate. We have comforts. We have everything that we need to be happy and to be content. So first, I'm going to quickly run you through 7 C's, which are important for leaders. And then we'll look at some qualities from the Bhagavad Gita, which are also for leaders and human beings. Let me also say that Shoolini University, by doing these webinars, organizing them, is doing a laudable job in reaching out to principals and teachers of schools throughout North India. And in this time of crisis, it is giving them that hope, that zest, that inspiration. And for me, it's a great laudable, it's a great feeling to be doing this every day from home. I do a few others also, but this is a regular webinar. It is fantastic to be doing this every morning or afternoon and reaching out to you. So the 7 C's that I'd like to talk about, which are not only for leaders, but also you can share with your students when you meet them or talk to them through webinars, are the first one is character. A leader without character, or even a human being who is not able to turn the spotlight of analysis upon himself or herself, is basically not able to handle life as it should be held. And we are not able to basically understand character in a very common way. It is basically, character is what you do when no one is watching. That means the police is not watching, ma'am is not watching, mama is not watching. A child or a youngster needs to still do the right thing. Of course, we are human. Of course, we make mistakes. We are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. As I often quote, Swami Sri Yukteswar said in the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, he said, those who are too good for this world are adorning some other. They are not in this world. So if we are in this world, that means we have something to work out, some imperfection in our character or in our makeup, whatever it is. So let us work on our character and try and follow the path of truth, honesty. The second C is creativity. And creativity is a wonderful word. I live by it. I love it. And creative people are people of charm, of excellence, of happiness, of positivity. Because people who are creative are able to bring out that extra X factor into their lives. They are able to do things which others cannot. A child who is creative is absolutely outstanding in many ways, may not get as many marks as other children, because that child is not able to remember everything in the books, but is so creative that she or he can create work of art or music or do something in design that no one else can think of. In fact, there's a small anecdote which I heard in a spiritual lecture, that a small little girl, 6 years old, was drawing something in class. All the children were supposed to draw whatever they wanted. And the teacher was going around the class, and the little girl was drawing something furiously. And the teacher asked her and said, what are you busy drawing? She says, I'm drawing God. And the teacher asked her, but do you know what God looks like? No one knows what God looks like. And the girl didn't stop drawing. She kept drawing very furiously, very fast. And she says, they will know in a minute, which means when I'm done with my drawing, the world will know what God looks like. Now, that kind of creative confidence, if you look at it, can only be there in a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. By the time we turn 17, 18 or 20 or 30, 40, 50, we lose that unbridled creativity in some sense. We also accumulate fears and worries which were not there when we were children. We accumulate negativity and cynicism. So creativity helps to retain that positivity. If we can have it in our lives as leaders, as human beings, it is a great quality to have. Then the next is courage. Courage is something that comes from fearlessness. It comes from faith. It comes from doing what you think is right, even in circumstances where people might expect you to do something else, but you stand for what you think is right, and you have courage of heart and mind, and you are able to do whatever you have to do. That is something very, very important for you. And courage means that we have faith in God. We are fearless in a way, and we really need to focus on our inner strength for that purpose. Any outstanding achievement which is to be accomplished has to be done through faith and courage. Without that, cannot be done. The next C I'd like to talk about is calmness. Calmness of mind, calmness of being, calmness of personality. Those who are restless people can be very, very annoying, tiring to others to be with, and their own minds are fleeting and running around from here to there. They're not in one moment for too much time. So being in the present moment is a sign of calmness. Being in the future and past all the time with mind wandering, as they say, is something that is not a good sign. It is okay to think of the future and dream of the future at times, but when you are in the present moment and focusing on what you have in front of you and whatever you're doing right now, then you're accomplishing what you need to, and your mind is more relaxed and rested. So I'll also quote the story of a pond of water which is still, is the moon's reflection is clear in the pond. But if you throw a stone or pebble into that pond, the water becomes rippled and the moon's reflection is distorted. It is similar with our minds. When our minds are still, we can see the picture of life clearly. We can see the reflection of life clearly. We can take the right decision because we see life clearly, because our mind is calm. When our mind is disturbed, we will say the wrong thing, we will drive fast, we will do wrong things or actions which we should not, or say things which we should not. And our blood pressure will go up if we are not calm. So work on your calmness. Paramahansa Yogananda, author of the autobiography of a yogi, said, be calmly active and actively calm. So that is something you need to work on. All of us need to work on it. Even in a crisis, it is possible to be calm, because we see some people are calmer than us. And if they can be calm, then we need to emulate them. It's very important. The next C I'd like to talk about is compassion. Compassion means thinking of others, empathy. And it is something that is very, very vital to everybody's growth. Any student who is not thinking of others, any youngster who is self-centered, and that is okay, it's normal. But to think of others brings greatness, brings higher thought. Your compassion for those who are not able to help you in anything, but you feel for them, you have empathy for them, you put yourself in their shoes, you care for them, you care for society. That is compassion. Compassionate people are superior people. They don't only think of themselves. It is not only charity or donations that you need to do, spending time with others, feeling for them, listening to them. Elderly people, when elderly people meet others, all they want is to be heard. Somebody spending 3 hours with an elderly person, listening to his stories and tale, is doing something very, very highly valuable, and giving that elderly person that succor, that calm, that balm which that elderly person needs. Then the next C is cheerfulness. Cheerful people are people who people admire, others admire. They have goodwill. These people have a lot of respect, and people are genuinely fond of cheerful people, and they don't like grumpy people. So I often go to schools and speak to children as well as teachers. But when I speak to children, I tell them and I make them laugh by saying, कि आप जब आपकी क्लास में कोई रोंदू टाइप है, which means that somebody who's always crying, always negative, always complaining. So that is something which is also very, part of our personality at times. Always criticizing, always negative, always grumpy. Light nahi hai, ye theek nahi hai, wo theek nahi hai. Why do we have that in our personality? Why keep criticizing others? And yesterday, people were queuing up outside liquor shops. The government opened liquor shops, and everybody laughing at people who queued up. Now, I was not there. I didn't queue up. But I can understand that these people were desperate and they wanted liquor. And for those of us who don't drink, we can't understand how keen they were for that. So we have to understand others instead of just laughing at others and criticizing them, whatever they may be. A lot of drug addicts from Punjab have actually turned to helplines and got off drugs in this corona crisis. And the benefits of corona crisis are there to see. Road accidents are zero, crime is zero, corruption is zero, pollution is almost zero, very little. And you can see how the world is being cleaned up in many ways. Anyway, this is not a time for that kind of speech. Two more points quickly. Contentment. Contentment means that you are content with what you have. And the attitude of contentment is an attitude of thankfulness. It is an attitude of being grateful for what you have. At this point, I'm going to turn over to Atul Khosla, and he has a short video to show you about Aman, a student of Shoolini University. It's a very creative topic. So let's go over to Atul.
Thank you, Vivek. Before I get into the video, I was just thinking, and I was thinking about leaders that I've worked with, leaders that I respect. And the thought that came to my mind is that great leaders make ordinary people do extraordinary things. And that's actually the story of Aman, a student of Shoolini who was rather ordinary in her undergrad and masters and ended up doing something absolutely extraordinary in her PhD. So what made her do that? And I would actually say three things. One is creativity. So the role of a leader is to, like you rightly said, make the other side fearless, push towards creativity. The second thing I think is also about giving the other person a chance, the opportunity. And finally, I would say just stretching that individual. Many times we people live in our comfort zones. So stretching our followers many times or our team members can be amazingly successful. So that's the story of Aman. I'm going to show a video, then I'll give you the context why I get goose pimples every time I think about Aman. For a second, let me take a minute and play the video. Wonderful. Well, I'll just summarize it by saying, Vivek, a simple idea, an ordinary person, but a great leader. And that makes all the difference. So Aman, like I said, was relatively ordinary student, ended up joining her PhD under the leadership of Dr. Saurabh Kulshrestha, and I consider Saurabh to a great leader. A simple idea on water. How do you make drinking water available to everyone? Moringa seeds are nothing but drumsticks. It was a matter of chance that they came across this amazing discovery. They were actually working on the antibiotic effects of moringa, and they realized that it actually kills bacterial germs in water. And it's path-breaking because this could change the way the world drinks water. Aman has been awarded the World Water Fellow. This is an extremely prestigious award. More than 100,000 researchers participate to get the award every year. It's a UN-sponsored award. She was the one who got it this year, spent 6 months in Geneva, and post that went on to win the Tata Trust and Lockheed Martin Award worth 25 lakhs. An amazing story of a success of an ordinary student, who was given extraordinary, I would say, leadership by her teacher. And I think that's the role that all of us play as teachers. And we are playing that right now. I always say that many times the media probably has actually ignored the effort that all of you have been doing. You all are great Corona warriors. You've been juggling your home, you've been juggling your work to make sure that not a single student of yours goes illiterate or doesn't get a day of study. So hats off to all of you. You're all great leaders, but if you can slightly hone some of the skills, we can even be better. I think with those words, I'll hand it over to Vivek, and I'm very keen to listen to those 20 plus traits of the Gita, Vivek.
Yes, so I'm going to take those up now. Thank you, Atul. And out of those, I'm going to take up a few. These are enunciated in the Gita, and they are traits which are absolutely vital to the context. Can you hear me clearly?
Vivek, there is a bit of an echo for some reason.
There is a bit of an echo. Okay, let me just correct that. Yeah. Okay, I think it should be fine now. All right. So we're going to go through the 26 qualities of the Gita that everyone should have. Some of them I'm going to take up a little more, and the rest I'll just read out. We already talked about fearlessness, that is courage, which means total faith in yourself and total faith in God. The second is purity of the inner psyche. We talked about character. That means that we think purely, we are trying to be positive most of the times, and we have no bad intentions most of the time. Perseverance in the yoga of self-knowledge, which means perseverance in self-actualization, self-realization, and by meditation is that is the way to do it. Meditation will give us that calmness also. Meditation is something which is superior, and meditation is something which people take lightly. They think we will start meditating after retirement, but that doesn't work. And you have to start meditating during your lifetime when you're active, when you're absolutely active. Then charity is another quality in the Gita. Charity means thinking of others. We already talked of compassion, and that means that we are giving, always giving. And if you're giving, then God takes care of you a little more. Self-restraint is something I would like to talk about a little more in detail. Self-restraint means self-control, controlling your emotions, controlling your actions. That means that you are calm enough to control your anger also, and you are able to say things which you should say in a given circumstance rather than things which are just uncontrolled. And in fact, it is very important for us to restrain ourselves in front of children, let's say. Often parents keep talking about scary things in front of their young kids. It is very, very important that we should keep on staying balanced and calm at that time. And if we are balanced and calm in front of children, then we don't say things which worry them or scare them. In front of seniors, elderly people also, we should be restrained. What we say which might worry them or scare them. Otherwise, emotional intelligence is basically about trying to control your emotions and not saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. And you have to be careful of how you are conducting yourself in front of juniors, seniors. If you are scolding someone and somebody else is also present, then that is something you need to watch out for. Because you are, of course, you have to scold people at times, but they feel very embarrassed in front of others. And that is the thing that you need to avoid. If you're praising someone, it's okay to praise in front of others. They will be happier. So self-restraint in various ways, controlling your bad tendencies, analyzing yourself, introspecting. Leadership is about understanding that you are to be an example to the others. And to be an example to others, you have to control your own negativities. And people look up to you all the time. And if they're looking up to you, they cannot afford to see any frailties. I often say to parents that when your children turn 18 and they start driving, you will tell them, don't cross the red light. But if you are crossing the red light when nobody's watching, then what kind of example are you setting? So you have to be careful. That is self-restraint. The next point in the Gita is sacrifice. Sacrifice means, again, often giving up your own self-centeredness and your own ambitions for others. And sacrifice is a laudable thing. Anyone who's joining the army and going to the border, anyone who is doing that is giving up a lot of peace of mind, a lot of comfort at home. Doing a corporate job in a bank next door may be very hardworking requirement, but it is not a sacrifice of the kind that an army officer makes or an official makes to go to the border for 6 months at a time before meeting the family. Study of the scriptures is also a part of these 26 qualities, which means that you should keep on reading spiritual books and religious books, whatever you follow, and must keep in touch with them. Austerity, which means not splurging, not spending ostentatiously, not overspending and buying things which you don't need. Declutter your life. Yesterday on Netflix, my daughters were watching something called Tidying Up the House. And it's a simple enough concept. People are trying to declutter their houses, and that becomes a reality show the whole world is watching, which I don't know why they need to watch it, but at least we get the idea that you declutter your houses. The next is honesty. Honesty is something which makes us say the right thing, do the right thing, think the right thing. And of course, we are imperfect. We cannot be 100% honest because we will lie at times. We will say things which we shouldn't say. We will do things which we shouldn't do, but we try to improve. The next is non-violence. Non-violence means that we are, by thought, we are not aggressive against people, criticizing, jealous, and always vilifying someone, absolutely criticizing them to bits. So try to be non-violent in thought. And of course, domestic violence is something which is to be watched out for also. In this time, it is more. I've been Deputy Commissioner of Panchkula. I know that it does take place and we got cases. So we need to watch out for physical violence as well. Truthfulness. Truthfulness is something that everyone knows about. Honesty and truthfulness go together. So saying the right thing at the right time. Absence of anger. We talked about restraint. Anger management will help each one of you in this modern era of 2020 to become better leaders, better person. Renunciation, which means giving up some of your desires, which means giving up some of your material acquisitions or desire. Renunciation is a great practice to be, simplifying your life. And simplifying your life has to take place. Then equanimity is a quality I'd like to touch upon again. It is something which is even-mindedness. Even-mindedness means that you are able to remain balanced in happy circumstances as well as sad circumstances. It is difficult for human beings. Harbhajan Singh would do the Bhangra whenever he took a wicket, as if it was something he won the World Cup each time. He could not help himself with so much happiness, which is great. It's joy. But sometimes we overreact at little things, and we are too much on the high, and then we don't realize that tomorrow will also come when things will go back to normal or whatever. So, but more importantly, not to feel too low when things go wrong. It is important to keep yourself balanced, and the ability to bounce back is important. The next is abstinence from malicious talk. Malicious talk means, again, gossip, rumor mongering, spreading bad things, news about people, neighbors. Boys especially are taught in our families, and this I wrote a column on in Hindustan Times, right? That teaching our boys to respect neighbors, ladies from other families, girls, that is very, very important. They respect their immediate family, and many boys, when they go out onto the road with their friends, they don't respect people over there. Then compassion for all creatures we talked about. Then freedom from greed. Greed is something which gives us unnecessary negativity in life. We are greedy for something, lusting for something, whatever. We have something, but we want more and more and more and more, never ending. Gentleness, which is basically your demeanor, your calmness, the way of speaking, the way of thinking. Modesty. Modesty means you're humble. Humility is a great quality. I often quote Dr. Manmohan Singh. Look at his humility. Look at Dr. Abdul Kalam, and look at these great figures who were so high in the ladder of success, but so humble. Barack Obama, superb humble people. Then you come to modesty, then absence of fickleness. Absence of fickleness means that you are constant in your behavior, you're stable, you're not wavering all the time. Very important quality for leaders to have. You are solid in your conduct. Splendor, which means splendor of personality, splendor of aura, splendor of your being, splendor of how you speak, splendor of your ability to inspire others. Then forgiveness. The Bible says forgive somebody 70 times 7, which means endlessly. It means you keep forgiving. And forgiveness is something which makes you feel lighter, and you become greater than the other person who is not forgiving. Then fortitude. Fortitude means you are strong and solid and resilient, brave. Fortitude. Then cleanliness. Cleanliness of surroundings, cleanliness of mind, clean thinking, clean doing. Then absence of malice. First we came to absence of malicious talk. Now we come to absence of malice. Malice basically is hatred. It means you hated someone for 10 years for doing something wrong to you. You were suffering for 10 years. That person may not be suffering. You suffered because you hated and hated and hated. So absence of malice is something which is to be. The last one which is there is absence of pride, which is again humility. And absence of pride in yourself, it shows. A person who is too proud of themselves will show. So as I often say that if you're a leader, look for respect, not for just authority that you have, because that authority has come from your chair. But if you are a leader, then people, if you are respected as a leader, then people love you genuinely and work for you because of your personality and because they really admire and feel fond of you. So I think I've been speaking a lot on these qualities, but I would just sum up and say that these are not possible for us to perfect. You cannot be totally humble. You cannot be totally anger-free. You are human. But we try to improve even despite trying circumstance. All of us go through difficult circumstances. There is no excuse. We have to keep on trying to improve. And meditation was the number one out of all these. Meditate to find your true self. Find your meditation path and follow it. Thank you, Atul. I'll pass it over to you for your comments on leadership and for the video of Shoolini University, and also then Q&A.
So fantastic. Absolutely amazing, Vivek. And I was just thinking about, when you were speaking about modesty, I was thinking about my experiences with Dr. Kalam. So just for everyone in the audience, Dr. Kalam came to Shoolini around 5 years ago, actually. And an amazing incident happened. As he walked in, and our chief minister was also there, everyone actually left the chief minister and ran towards Dr. Kalam. So we had a situation, Vivek, where Mr. Veerbhadra Singh was alone, and everyone was trying to crowd towards Dr. Kalam. Of course, they wanted a selfie. So Dr. Kalam calls me and says, Atul, go and spend time with your chief minister. I will go, but you have to spend 5 years with him. And that was the modesty and the presence of mind of such an amazing man. So I ended up spending 2 days with him, and I can tell you what an amazing man he was. And that's why he was respected by everyone, by both the parties, the BJP, which had made him the president, and the Congress, which had opposed him in his early days when he was being elected as the president of India. But then his modesty, his generosity, and his leadership made everyone make him feel like the president of India. And when we think about the president of India, and we think about presidents of India, I would say, we think about Dr. Kalam as probably the epitome of a leader that we all want to have. That's the first one, Vivek. I think a couple of more thoughts from my end. The second is about communication. Typically, great leaders will be great communicators in some form or the other. So do develop your own style. Do try to make sure that you can communicate with your students, with your fellow teachers, with the fellow employees, your colleagues and others. Some people have great conversational style, like Arvind Kejriwal, for example. He doesn't stand over there with majestic speeches, but he has an amazing conversational style. On the other hand, Mr. Modi has got an amazing aura when he presents, and you always talk about Atalji and how he was a great orator. But we can all have a different style, and we can all be great communicators depending upon what our individual style is. That's the second thing I would say. I think the third thing I would like to add over here would be hobbies. Pretty much every great leader, anyone that I know of, would have a hobby which is significantly beyond their work. Mr. Modi, for example, is a big yoga fan. Steve Jobs was big into spirituality and design. And you go through it, Bill Gates, for example, is very big into music and reading. So form a hobby. Great leaders need to be very well read. Start reading books. And we'll request Vivek to give us 2-3 books that he thinks should be really good for all of us. You can give the names, Vivek, after this. But I think these 3-4 things will really help you become a great leader. And finally, I would say, a lot of my students, a lot of people, my colleagues actually come and tell me that, sir, meri tarakki isliye nahi hoti kyunki mere ko politics nahi aati. I keep on hearing this all the time. I can tell you, friends, that ultimately the most successful leaders are the ones who do not do politics. They do not do politics. Guys who do politics, the system catches up at some point of time and they actually lose out. And finally, I would say, as a great leader, you need not always be nice. You need to be respected, not be nice. So my mantra is, you need to be respected, not be nice, not to be sweet always. Sometimes you have to be firm and you have to say no. I think with this, I'll also like to play a small video that I think all of you will associate with. You're all in the profession of turning young minds into great performers, very successful people. And that is my passion. That is the passion of Shoolini. I wanted to show you our passion through this small video. Give me a second and I'm going to play it.
throughout history. The young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset, our best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shoolini University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Shoolini University. Think learning, think success.
Thank you, Vivek, for your last thoughts before we open it up for Q&A.
I think you've summed it up very well and added the word at the top point of communication, which is absolutely vital. And I think great leaders have to be great communicators, and they cannot keep things shady and gray areas, and everything has to be clear to their followers or their team. But just to sum up, I think all of us need these leadership qualities. As teachers, you are leaders in society. I often try to inspire teachers by telling them that how important a role they're playing, and don't undervalue yourself. Don't think of yourself as just a normal school teacher or something like that. You are an all-rounder. You're doing so many things for your family. And many of you may know me also. I live in Chandigarh, Panchkula. You live in Chandigarh as well. We may have met, but stay connected on LinkedIn. And Atul mentioned books. I have the autobiography of a yogi here. This is a book for most of you to read, all of you to read. It is something that will give you a spiritual bent of mind. It is not a religious book, it's a spiritual book, and each one can read it. Please find it wherever you can. It is absolutely awesome. Shoolini University has the Yogananda library, which is really, really beautiful, I must tell you. I also have here my book, which is Finding Success Within. That must be read by people who are looking at, especially for youngsters. 52 Life Skills for Young People is the book, Finding Success. And just as a tribute to Dr. Khosla, I have a book here, which is To Serve with Love, which is a tribute to Atul's dad, Vice Chancellor of Shoolini University, founder of Shoolini University. And To Serve with Love is a compendium of 80 write-ups on Dr. Khosla on his 80th birthday. Wonderful book as well. One more book I would recommend is all the books of Yuval Noah Harari. You must read. He's a great thinker. Listen to him. Find out why the world is going to be a better place to live and not a worse place to live in the coming years. And I often tell people that after Corona, the world will become better, not worse. So don't fear. Don't be scared. Everything will be fine.
So we'll ask all of you to please keep on posting your questions. We'll truly appreciate that. I have one comment to make, Vivek, and I have a question in my mind. My comment really is, I come from a family of teachers. My grandfather, my nana was a teacher. My mother continues to be a teacher. My father is a teacher. I'm a teacher. I love teaching. I think it's very important to be proud of what you do. So great leaders also are very proud of what they're doing. So I'm very proud of being a teacher. And if people ask me, what do you do? I hate the word management when they say you're part of management of the university. I'd rather be called a teacher than a manager, which I think is of great pride. But let's come to Q&A. Tell us the name of the leader you admire the most, Vivek. Whom do you admire and why?
I have been admiring, actually, I've been watching him very closely, and I have admired Narayan Murthy, I must tell you. I mean, the way he drove Infosys to success and how they started off with only 4 people. And they were closing down in the first 2 years, but Narayan Murthy was strong enough to say, no, we won't, we go on. From 4 people, they are today about 300,000, which is 3 lakh. And they have centers all over India, providing employment to bright people all over India. And I must tell you, Infosys and Tata's are 2 companies which are totally transparent. I must tell you, I don't want to name any others, but Tata's and Infosys are 2 companies in corporate India which are totally transparent. I have been an IAS officer, I have known them, and they have been a magnificent examples of how to get their work done without indulging in corruption. And that is absolutely fantastic. Narayan Murthy's ethos and leadership, I think, and of course, Ratan Tata for the Tatas is responsible for this legacy.
Which I think comes back to the whole point of values. So great leaders will also have great values, I would say. I mean, that's why they're remembered. I think a few questions are coming in. We have Sharan ma'am saying, how do you inculcate positive thinking in the negative people around us?
Yeah, so this is a great challenge for all of us. And it is said that the company that you have is vital for your positive thinking. If you have people around you who are always negative, if they are in your family, then it's a task to make them positive. If they are not in your family, then avoid them. They are some people who are perennially negative. Try and avoid them, stay away. If they are in your school or colleagues, then just be as much in touch with them as is necessary. Don't spend extra time with people who spend their lives criticizing others. Trying to reform somebody to positivity for others. We have another one. Kindly give the names of the books in the chat box. I think
when you're polite. And she says she disagrees with it, wants to know your thoughts about it, Vivek.
Yeah, so, the word is balance. As Atul said, firmness is also important so many times. The point is that I have been an IAS, or I can only give my example because I've been through this 26-year journey in service as HCS and IAS officers. And I have seen that people never took me lightly. They listened to me, but I never had to lose my cool. And I have seen other leaders who are always successful. They are balanced in government, in corporate India, in education, principals who are absolutely solid. Even Dr. Khosla, the Vice Chancellor, rarely loses his cool, and he gets things done. Atul mentioned firmness. I've seen Atul in action. I've seen many educationists who are successful because of their balanced personality. They will be polite most of the time, but people don't take them lightly. You have to be balanced.
I think it's about your confidence, Krishma. Many times when we are nervous about ourselves, we believe that people are not taking us seriously. So if you're polite as a person, please continue to do that. I can tell you that I have a terrible anger and I'm working on it. It's better to be polite and be positive rather than spread negativity. So it's a great trait you have. So please continue to be positive. Over time, people will respect you for that. Another couple of questions, Vivek. Sukhleen ma'am is asking a question. She's saying, how do you remove negative energy from our home and body?
From our home and body? I can't see the question.
So I'll read it for you. She's saying, how can we remove negative energy from our home and body?
Okay. So it's very true that energies give out vibrations, and positive energy gives out positive vibration, negative energy gives out negative vibration. See, in your body, the negativity comes from your thoughts, and the negative energy will come from the mind. It is basically necessary to feed the mind the right kind of thing. Firstly, cut out news and TV news. especially when you're about to sleep. Spend 45 minutes before you're sleeping in things which are not negative. Don't read negative books. Don't watch negative stories or news. Secondly, negative energy comes from being surrounded by people who are always critical and cynical. So you be the change agent and you try to spread that cheerfulness. Now, if the corona crisis is the same for everybody in the world, why are some people more cynical and more, always angry or depressed than others? The situation is the same. You be the one to spread that factor by saying that things will be fine, don't worry, and just go on with your gratitude for what you have.
I would like to just add over here, Vivek. I
Sure.
used to work with a very successful professional in Switzerland when I was there, a guy called Nils Hagander, who was my partner and my senior boss. And he was sort of like the Narayana Murthy of Switzerland, just to give you a sense. Very, 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 very known and popular in the Zurich circuit, at least. Was the CEO of Swiss Air. Everyone knew him. I once asked him, I said, Nils, you must be a very stressed man. How do you manage your stress? And he said something which was beautiful, which I remember to date. He said, Atul, stress is relative. There's some people who have no work and are extremely stressed and need to go on antidepressants. And there's some people who are extremely loaded and they don't feel the stress. So it's coming back to your point on meditation, on how do you take negative energy out. And if you take the negative energy out through your meditation, through the power of your mind, then you will actually not feel the stress. Those were my thoughts. Question on emotional intelligence. How do we increase emotional intelligence, Vivek?
Yeah, now I can see the questions. Thank you, Suklin ma'am, for that earlier one. Now, Neeru ma'am is asking, how can one increase emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is a big subject. We'll have a separate session on it someday. But basically, it means that you understand the situation. And emotional intelligence means that you have empathy for others around you and you have self-awareness. It's a complex subject, but basically it means that you do not do things which might hurt others or which might be inappropriate in the moment. You don't say things, lose your temper at times when you can manage it better. And as a leader, you have to set an example also of emotional intelligence. So it is basically not humiliating anyone, not reacting, overreacting, not shouting, and trying to retain in control of your emotions. Should we go to the next one?
Let's do that, Vivek.
Ritika ma'am is saying, how can we respond to criticism? See, criticism is going to be a part of our lives. There are going to be people who don't understand you, or sometimes they may be right also. At times they may be wrong. So we need to see why people are criticizing, and we need to maybe try and correct ourselves at some level. Maybe many of their points are uncalled for and unfair. So you need to take a balanced viewpoint. You need to forgive them. It is superhuman to forgive, but you need to do that. But if somebody goes on criticizing you, let me take the example of a mother-in-law goes on criticizing a daughter-in-law. The daughter-in-law is sick of hearing those things, but she has to somehow be resilient. And if it is not unfair what the mother-in-law is saying or overboard, then she has to just somehow make comments and make a peace. Of course, if the behavior is unwanted and uncalled for, then you have to take a stand somewhere. And that is important. Neetu ma'am is saying, how can we create a bridge between the older and younger person to remove the generation gap? It's always a perennial problem of humankind, the generation gap. I think it is halfway you go and halfway the younger person goes. Communication has to be continuous. If the younger person locks herself or himself in the room for 2 days, as happened to a relative of mine, a niece of mine, she wouldn't talk to the parents. So the communication gap has to be shortened and even vanish. You have to keep communicating and talking. And even if sometimes there is disagreement, always know that you are the elder person. So always forgive and come back to that level.
I actually think the onus is more on the older generation, Vivek. The younger generation is the new generation, as we as elders have to empathize and behave like them, understand their values, because their values could be different from ours. At least that's the way I spend time with my students. And then they start seeing me as a friend. And the moment the younger generation starts seeing you as a friend, then things are so much easier.
Absolutely.
At least that's the way I do it.
There's one about teamwork. All of us, Poonam ma'am is saying, all of us don't want to be part of it due to professional rivalry. Well, professional rivalry is quite common. It's quite natural for people to have a sense of rivalry. Instead of rivalry, it should be healthy competition. But some people indulge in petty things also. Yes, it happens. However, teamwork goes on. You see, a cricket team of 11 players may have two people who are rivals and they don't like each other's success, but the team has to perform and the overall picture has to take shape. And if the leader of the team is able to instill that sense of teamwork, then it is even more important. So you will have all kinds of people in the team. You have to be good yourself, and then things will fall in place.
I think we're running short of time. Lots and lots of questions, Vivek. Let's pick up 3 more, and we'll then try to respond to them over email.
Yeah, one is about meditation. So I follow Kriya Yoga, and Kriya Yoga is basically a science, and it is something which is available in the autobiography of a yogi. I'll write down the website here of the path I follow, so that you can, if you want, you can have a look at the meditation techniques. But you have to find your own path. If you find this suitable, any other suitable, please go ahead. I have just typed it in the chat box, the path that I follow, the website. And Atul and his parents also follow the same path. So it is a beautiful path of meditation. Kiran Jot Kaur ma'am, thank you for the accolades. Yes, I have all my talks on YouTube, and you have asked for the links. I think links may not be required. You just go to YouTube and search for Vivek Atray. You search for Shoolini Vivek Atray, and you will see about 20 of them with Shoolini. And beautiful sessions that we have had jointly, Atul and I. You'll find a lot of information and gyan over there, which you might find useful. We do our best to do whatever we can. Last one. How can you improve? Yeah, this is a good one, Atul. Maybe you can add your thoughts. Shalini ma'am is asking, how can you improve your decision-making skills? Absolutely vital. I think we should have touched upon this at some stage. Being decisive is vital. You know, sometimes you are dithering. Sometimes you keep delaying your decision, which is not a good thing. But sometimes consciously not deciding something and letting it happen on its own is also good. Narasimha Rao was a great exponent of that. But we have to know when we need to take the bull by the horns and take a decision and move forward, and when it is better for the matter to let the matter sort it out. So you have to be very sensible as a decision maker. And sometimes you go on instinct, but mostly you go on factors which are palpable and available in front of you. Atul?
So I think before we close, I'll just introduce a very small framework for you on how you can influence your team members. And it's a 2x2 matrix. Think about skill on one axis and will on one axis. So there will be people who be low on skill and high on skill, and low on will and high on will. The easiest to manage actually are high skill, high will people. High skill, high will people, you just need to delegate. Let them be. They will deliver as per what you expect them to deliver. Low skill, low will, don't bother. Whatever you do, they are losers. You can't do much about it. The most difficult ones to manage are high will and low skill, because they are the ones who come to you and say, ma'am, don't worry, kal aa jayega aapka kaam. Wo kal hi nahi aata hai. So for them, you have to give very specific feedback that please tomorrow come back to me with this particular answer or this particular work. And then you've got guys who will be high skill, low will, and they are the ones who need a lot of motivation for you. So talking to them a lot helps. It's a small framework that I use with my teams, with my students, and it really, really helps me, because if you use the same lens of leadership with everyone, many times you're trying to make an elephant climb a tree, which is not always possible. There's one question on the dip bag, Vivek. Pritinder ma'am is asking, is it available, ma'am? It's being tested right now. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is working with us on that, and hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll have it out in the market. I think that's
Sorry.
Yeah, moringa powder is anyway available, so you can start using
Available.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Start using
You know, if you're using, you're eating sambar or dal, and you can start putting drumsticks or moringa drums in that. It's a great way to keep your stomach healthy and your gut healthy. So I think that's really it, Vivek. We'll request either Anup Kiran ma'am or Gurkiran ma'am to please come on live and please say a few words. We'll love to hear from you.
Just
Anup
one
Kiran
quick
ma'am.
answer on the
Yeah.
forgiving part. There is Amarpreet Kaur ma'am asking about forgiving. The quick answer is that you have to forgive in your mind, but the other person should not take you lightly. You have to be firm and solid at the same time. But your mind should not fret over that revenge or that depression. You have to make your mind lighter by, in your mind, forgiving that person, yet you don't have to appear light. So that's the balance. Yes, over to you, ma'am, and let's all stay connected through LinkedIn, through other social media after this session.
So we have Anup Kiran ma'am, over to you. You need to be unmuted, ma'am.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. The whole experience has been very unique. And, all this while we have been hearing more of about, the global pandemic, about coronavirus. And I think this is a very, very welcome change for all of our teachers. And I would like to thank Dr. Vivek Atray, the very celebrated speaker and an ex-IAS officer for, taking us through a very positive mindset. Because right now, this is the time when we all have to be very positive. Secondly, I would like to thank Professor Atul Khosla for sharing all those valuable thoughts. Because this is the time when, of course, as teachers, we have stood a very brave front. We have confronted. We have come out of comfort zones. Teachers have really made an effort, to reach out to the children, making sure their knowledge, their skills, their attitudes are in place. But at the same time, somewhere, we have to be very, very positive. We have to be very open-minded. And, the way we have been inspiring our children, over these virtual classrooms. So we have to keep that inspiration, moving forward. And I think it's very important to for a teacher to be very, very motivated. And definitely, as our director, Mr. Bedi, he's the wind beneath our wings. So we are now in the 50th year of our establishment. And we had a whole plan for, celebrating the Golden Jubilee celebrations. And all of our teachers had been gearing up for that. And, when Mr. Vivek was talking about those 7 C's of leadership, I was, looking at our honorable director, Mr. Bedi, that the kind of values that he imbibes. He's been a true leader for all of us. And, in many ways, he has been a role model. And it is his vision that we have reached this far. And I was, all the time going back, my thoughts were going back to him, and kind of, I was appreciating. And of course, I think the kind of values that Mr. Vivek has brought about, referring to the, the holy book Gita, I think those are the values as teachers, if we imbibe, because whatever we will imbibe, they will be definitely, projected through our thought process. And ultimately, it's the students who will benefit from that. So I thank you, Ms. Shikha, for giving that platform, and of course, Mr. Atul for giving this unique platform to all of our teachers, because such activities, such interactions, they go a long way in giving you that vision, a very positive vision with which our children are going to benefit from. So, I have been listening to Mr. Vivek. I happened to go to one of the HT, enclaves where they were some scholarship, there was some scholarship, I remember, in Mohali. So he had given, like, he's always giving some C's and some, so he has that numerical system. So I remember I had gone for some inspection, and so for very long time I had been using those. So I'll just make him remember one, formula he gave. It was 3I minus M. So 3I is for integrity, inspiration, innovation. So that's the 3 I's. He says it is like a positive thing. You have to keep them with you. And minus 1 I, and that is ego. And of course, minus M, that is money. So, these are the kind of thoughts that give you an opportunity to, think beyond and think away from the mundane. Ordinary, everything is available there, but when we, get into a certain mindset set up by, these kind of, positive thoughts, then it becomes easy, and, it becomes a life which is, living worth for. So I thank you, Mr. Vivek, for, always, bringing up something or the other in a very creative way and in a very meaningful way. So
Thank you very much,
on
ma'am.
behalf of,
I remember that session, and thank you for remembering the formula, because
so
it
it's
gives me
been on
reason
my
to.
it's been on my mobile ever since. So it's in my notes. So I always,
Thank you so
whenever
much.
I have to, encourage our children. So this is sometimes I do go back to. So I thank you for, coming up with such formulas. And of course, these are the thoughts that take us forward. And of course, there's so much to learn as teachers. We are in that profession where learning has to happen. We cannot stop learning. And if once we, once we learn, we are better. We are better to, better as teachers. We are better as individuals. And of course, we are leaders in our own right. So I thank you all for giving us this opportunity. And I'm sure our teachers, they have that, unique energy now to, take up, surmount any challenge. And I thank you, and I wish all the teachers all the very best. Thank you so much.
Give my regards to Mr. Bedi. I know him personally, and give him my fond regards. Tell him I was remembering.
Definitely, sir. I will do that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It's what wonderful words to end the webinar. I'll just like to say one thing, which I sometimes say but rarely say. कई लोगों के साथ प्यार हो जाता है. आपके स्कूल के साथ ऐसा लगता है प्यार हो गया है. So we'd love to come over and meet with you once hopefully coronavirus is over. Vivek and I would love to come and do a workshop with your students, with the teachers. And of course, we'd love to invite you over to Shoolini. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. We have a beautiful campus. We'd love to show all the work that our students and our faculty is doing to both students and your teachers. So hopefully coronavirus is going to be behind us very soon. And we'll meet, and we'd love to interact and be in touch. Once again, thank you, teachers. You've been a wonderful, wonderful audience. What lovely questions all of you had. And thank you both, Anup Kiran ma'am, Gurkiran ma'am, and Mr. Bedi. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and be safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.